You probably didn't know this, but if you have a friend who is obese, you are 30% more likely to also become obese. I think we all know that if you are around people that are miserable and depressing, you're also more likely to become miserable and depressed. And why wouldn't the same be true for wealth and for our money? Now, I received an email a few days ago from a young man, and he asked me, what should I do to get around more high net worth individuals? And at first, I thought it was a bit of a naive and silly email to send. My finger went toward the delete button. But then I stopped myself for a moment because I realized very often I find myself in rooms and in conversations where I am the person with the lowest net worth. I'm constantly surrounding myself and meeting with men who are very successful, multi-millionaires, decamillionaires, men who are retired in their 30s and 40s. So it got me thinking about exactly how have I been able to do this? Why do these high net worth individuals want me in their social circle, want me in those conversations? What is it about the way that I carry myself, the way I present myself, and also the value that I bring to the world? But before we go into all of that, let me take you on a little trip that I took a couple of days ago involving some very, very nice cars and some even nicer people.
This is the Ferrari Club of America, and as the name would suggest, it's where Ferrari owners get together to show off their supercars, admire those of others, and most importantly, mix and mingle with other people who are on their level. And at this particular event, there was also a fashion show hosted by a local tailoring brand. This event was on a Saturday, so nobody came here to do business specifically. If they meet a new friend or make a connection that they end up doing business with in the future, that's great, but this is not a networking event, it's a social event. Now, if you want to mix and mingle, you have to become part of that environment. You don't have to smoke a cigar or drink expensive bourbon to mingle with high net worth men. But the key is to relax and enjoy yourself. You don't need to dress too formally at these types of events. Most men are just wearing jeans and a sport coat here, or a linen shirt and trousers. But everyone has clearly made an effort with their appearance, including the women. But where do you find environments like this, where high net worth individuals hang out? Well, at this event I made a new friend, Ren Thompson. He runs a fine jewelry company in Chicago, and his business is reliant on his ability to network and connect with people with a high net worth. So I decided to invite him for a cigar to get his opinion on this topic.
Obviously, a lot of your business is built off your personal network, connections, things like that. For somebody that's looking to develop a personal network with maybe people that are more high net worth, more successful, they're looking to be around that kind of environment, what would you recommend for them?
I'd recommend a couple of things. First and foremost, you have to be aware of how you present, right? So if you're saying, hey, I want to build a network and I want people to know me as whatever, the jeweler, right? Then what do I believe that person that I want to be, or I want to portray myself, how do I believe they dress? How do I believe they conduct themselves in that space? Cool. Once you have an idea as to how you want to do that, then start looking at spaces, right? Because I think a lot of people, they'll just be like, I'm just going to go to where rich people are, and then I'm going to have friends and sure, that'll work to some extent. But I think if you're more tactical about like, here's how I want to move in these type of rooms, here's the story, here's like how I want to get myself across to these people. When you find the rooms, it tends to happen a lot faster, you know? So first, make sure you understand yourself, how you want to refine yourself. Second, know what you're talking about, right? Like, don't try to fake it. There's people that try to talk about subjects they don't understand. And I find that people are much more open to you when you're like, oh, I don't know much about that. You know, can you like be an open book, be a sponge, right? And then finally, start looking at spaces that make sense, right? If I'm a jeweler, right, and I want to meet more clients, and you know, my clients are, let's just call them high net worth individuals, right? I'm probably not going to go to like a nightclub to try and make more of those clients, right? That doesn't really make much sense for how I need to operate to get those clients, right? So look for spaces that would make sense.
What could some of those spaces be? Let's just take Chicago, for example. We
Yeah.
don't have to go specific, but
Yeah, we don't have to go specific, but I mean, like generally speaking, I mean, like I said, I like cigars.
Yeah.
I like cigar lounges, and I've had really great conversations in cigar lounges with plenty of really interesting people. And sometimes that's led to customers, or it's led to a connection to a customer,
Yeah.
something like that. Almost every city has a version of like members clubs. You can check out which one is, which one makes sense to you.
yeah.
Depending on what your thing is, it might be more specific, right? If you want to be, you're talking about being an influencer, right? If I wanted to be maybe a fitness influencer, I'm gonna hang out at a lot of fitness events, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna join these run clubs. I'm gonna go to these events, these store activations, things like that. Like I'm gonna spend more time in those
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You and I were lucky enough to go to a fashion show recently, right? That makes a lot of sense based on that brand's clientele and kind of the clientele that we serve. And so
Yeah.
stuff like that, you got to keep your eyes open for it.
There are 4 or 5 bars in this specific area where all the wealthy people go.
Yeah,
Right? And you
sure.
can go there and have your $12 beer.
100%.
And have conversations. But
Yeah.
I think you hit on something really important, which is you have to have the story and
Yeah.
know what you're doing first.
Yeah.
I think some guys think like, oh, I need this network. I need to be around these high net worth individuals. But it's like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
You need to have
What are you
something.
adding to it?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need to have something first. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to be as rich as them or as successful, but it also can't just be I'll work for free or I'll,
I think a lot
wanna
of
learn.
people respect, at least from the wealthier individuals that I've interacted with, they respect somebody that's driven, that has a clear picture of what they want to do, and is able to articulate what they're trying to accomplish. And you're willing to put in the work, right? Because a lot of the wealthier people that I've associated with, nobody's just going to immediately be like, all right, well, let's do it, right? They're going to probably watch you a little bit and kind of
Yeah.
see how you operate. And so you have to kind of get into that. You got to become a doer, right? Like you got to get things done and be working towards whatever that goal is,
Yeah.
that you have. And then generally opportunities start to open. And the last thing you want is to get a really big opportunity and have no idea what to do with it. So like the whole point of you trying to do those things is like, think of it as practice. Like put your reps up in the gym. So then when the really heavy weight comes, you're like, okay, I think I know how to attack this. you know?
Yeah, that's true.
After my conversation with Ren, we went for a drink, we had a couple of cocktails together, and he brought along his business partner and his investor. And he and I got on really, really well. And now I'm actually on my way to meet him. And this happens every time I go to one of those types of events, and it would happen for you as well, where you don't just meet 2 or 3 people that you connect with, they end up introducing you to 2 or 3 other people that you can connect with. So from that one event, you get like 8 or 9 new people in your network. As long as you're proactive about it, as long as you actually make the most of it. But the point is, you don't have to go around being a social butterfly, going to events every night of the week. Just focus on the quality rather than the quantity, and genuinely enjoy the time that you spend with people, and be free and open in your spirit, and people will see that. People will see the enthusiasm that you have for the work that you do.
What's been cool about this video is, rather than me just sitting here and telling you, I feel like I've taken you on a small journey with me, showed you the connections that I've formed in real time. And I just want to finish this video really by sharing a couple of things that I think are the most important. And then just before you go, also one thing that I genuinely believe is a cheat code, a real modern day cheat code to networking with high level individuals in any city in the world. I hope what's become really clear in this video is the value of having your own story and providing value, creating something. Of course, meeting the right person, having the right connection can change everything for you. But in order for that connection to change things, you have to demonstrate potential. And the best way to demonstrate potential is not with words. It's not by offering to work for free, because believe me, that can cause more problems than it solves. The best way to prove your potential is with action and with motion. So no matter how old you are, start something. Whether you're 16, 28, or in your 50s and 60s. It is also really important to present yourself and carry yourself in the right way. This doesn't mean wearing a suit and tie. You have to wear the uniform or the dress code of the industry that you wish to infiltrate. I'd also say that even more important than the way you dress is actually the way you groom yourself. It's just human nature that we like to be around people who smell nice, or at least don't smell bad. They've brushed their teeth, they have nice fresh breath, they've combed their hair, they don't have flaky or oily skin, right? That's just how it is. So that's even more important than the way you dress. But I can't emphasize enough the importance of demonstrating value and taking action rather than relying on other people to do that for you. Probably the first, high net worth individual that I really formed a strong connection with was Antonio Centeno of Real Men, Real Style. But imagine if I'd just been emailing him or trying to form a connection with him before I'd even filmed my own YouTube videos, before I'd established some kind of presence for myself. Now, it's not like I had a huge channel when Antonio first got in touch with me. I hadn't done anything extraordinary, but I had shown my commitment to the process, and I'd done something that in some way had won his admiration. And you can do the same thing with whatever industry you're trying to establish yourself in. Now, I said that there was a bit of a cheat code in the modern era to networking with high-level individuals, and there truly is. And it's by starting a podcast. And you don't need a big social media following. You don't need to have famous guests. In fact, I would even encourage you not to have famous guests. You need to start a podcast that's about whatever you're interested in and that gives you an excuse to connect with the types of people that you want to connect with. This could be really simple. For example, this could be for somebody in Chicago. You could just have a podcast where you interview successful business owners in Chicago and get their story. And the podcast might not get many views, but that's really not very important. The reason that the business owners will come on your podcast isn't to spread their platform or to get loads of views. It's because they will genuinely appreciate you taking an interest in their story, and they'll be grateful for the opportunity to share their story, because these types of things don't happen to ordinary business owners, right? So when you start a podcast, you've immediately got a reason to follow up with every single connection that you make. And you can also do some cold outreach to high net worth people without seeming like a pest, without being a pain, because the podcast gives you that value that you can offer them. And you don't need loads of fancy equipment. You can literally start with 2 cheap microphones, film it on your iPhone, just get it out there on social media. Focus on hyper-locality or focus on a particular industry. But I would say it's easier to focus on the hyper-locality, because if you're, let's say, trying to create a podcast about the advertising industry and you've never even worked in the advertising industry, it's going to be a lot harder to get guests on. If you are in Huntsville, Alabama, and you want to know more people in Huntsville, Alabama, and meet the high net worth individuals in that city, just by merit of you actually living there and having a podcast is enough to get people to say yes. So I hope that you appreciate some really actionable advice there. The podcast for me that I have has definitely helped me connect with some really incredible people that, even though I have a big platform, I wouldn't have been able to connect with them otherwise. There's something about the magic of that long form conversation and also the connection that you'll form during that conversation that's really, really powerful. And I will say that podcasting is not only great for networking, but it's also a lot of fun, and it will seriously improve your communication skills. So I don't see any downside to starting this. You don't need a following, you don't need technical know-how. It's so easy to just begin. You've just got to get a guest and you've just got to hit record, and that's all there is to it, really. So remember, present yourself well, carry yourself well, find those environments in which high net worth individuals operate and where they hang out. Have value of your own to provide, have your own story. Make sure that you know who you are and what your purpose is of being in those rooms. And then finally, provide value, have something to offer, have a reason to connect. And the more successful you become, this gets a lot easier as well. And at some point you might be fighting people off with a stick saying, please leave me alone. But if you're watching this video, maybe that's not where you're at right now, and you want to make as many connections as possible. And as I said at the start of this video, at first I thought that email from that kid was kind of naive and annoying, but it's actually turned into what I believe is a really good, actionable, helpful video. So thank you for sending that email in. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this video. And if you are a man who is serious about being well connected, he's serious about improving his discipline, his social confidence, his sense of purpose and presence, these are all things that I help men in my private community, the Gentleman's Institution. That's exactly what I help them to do. And I've just made the Gentleman's Institution a lot more accessible and easier to join than ever, so that more men can get the benefits that the current members are enjoying. So go and check that out. The link will be in the description. You can also sign up for my free newsletter, The Gentleman's Digest, where I share personal insights, stories, recommendations, and challenges. That's delivered to your inbox every single week, completely for free, from my desk to yours. As I said, all those links are in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.